Hello, everyone. I am here. Welcome to Aunt Lainie's Kitchen. I've got my headset on, but I haven't started really like recording anything yet. I'm going to set up my Zoom. I swear every time that I go to do the video plus the audio podcast, all of a sudden my house becomes so hot. And we are having I'm going to be honest, I'm in Kansas City. We're going through fall spring right now because we went from it's been super cold. And then for the past few days, it's been kind of in the 70s. And people are going to start bringing out their patio furniture, even though I always say, don't do that yet. It's not time for you to do that yet. It's fall spring. It's lying to you. In fact, I feel like anything could happen. I have a birthday in April. I've had my birthday parties at the end of April because, I was working it around Easter. And I'll tell you that I was sitting one year, a couple of years, I was sitting in a tweed coat and a hat on a patio because we just knew that if we had it later in April, it was going to be super, warm, at least be in the 70s. And it was in the 40s and rainy and a couple times it was sleeting. So again, I call it fall spring for a reason because it'll just break your heart. So yeah, that's why I'm always why are you guys, you're doing too much. Just enjoy it right now, but it's not the time to commit to bringing out your patio furniture. It's just not the time. It's too soon, as the kids say. So if you guys watched me last night, I did the cooking. I was cooking in my kitchen, and I will post the pictures. I did a spicy jambalaya from a can of Progresso's version of it because my platform is shelf cooking, whatever you got, whether it's canned or ingredients to make homemade, but mainly I'm kind of working on the canned and prepared aspect of it because I know a lot of people don't have access to kind of spread out and make something from scratch. They don't have enough room. They might have maybe one burner that they're working with. So I want to be really conscious of that on my platform since that's what I'm all about. In Aunt Lainie's Kitchen, I am that auntie that you can come to my house and sometimes things will be homemade and sometimes they won't be homemade. And that's just how it's going to be, Sometimes I feel the spirit of making something from scratch and sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not feeling the vibe right now. And so that's where we're at. I'm loading up my Zoom so I can do the audio recording of this as well. I hope everyone is having a great night. Hello, I think your name, am I saying Renea Cooper? Am I pronouncing that correct? Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm just kind of getting started. Tonight I'm going to talk about, even though I talked about fall spring, on the outside, I would kind of hold off on getting the patio furniture stuff out and bringing all that stuff out. I mean, maybe if you want to sweep your patio or, rake the leaves or, whatever that is, get it ready for patio season, but it's not quite consistent, at least in the Kansas City area, okay? It's not quite consistent patio season yet. So that's kind of where I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the things inside, making those changes. And then also I'm going to kind of do an update on some of the places that I've been. I'm going to do a restaurant. I'm going to actually, I think, I'm not going to do a full-on restaurant review. I try to separate those out. Otherwise my podcast becomes super, super long and unwieldy, but I will do a light review of With Love, Meghan. I know that's everyone's doing that right now, but I just watched the last episode of it on Friday. And so I do have a couple of, observations, but it's not going to be something where you're like, dang girl, I'm trying to bring the vibe down. I'm not going to bring the vibe down. I promise. I'm just going to kind of, because I really just spoiler alert, I am of a certain age and I can remember all of the Food Network and Cooking Channel shows that were on that were filmed like that. It was, in somebody's backyard, whether it was hers, I don't think it is, but still, again, why would you want to film at your own house? So internet stalkers, because people on the internet can find anything, can find you and then roll up to your house. I mean, there's so many TikTokers on here that have talked about how people have just shown up to their house. So, I don't necessarily think that she needed to put her, film it all at her real address. I think she did some of the gardens and stuff. The garden scenes and the patio scenes were at her house and the other stuff wasn't. And that to me makes perfect sense. So let me just get the Zoom set up. This is how I do it with my Taco Bell headset. And here we go. Just here, I'm pressing buttons right now. You got here we go. Just here, I'm like pressing buttons right now. You guys can't see what I'm doing. Okay, let's see, I'm just launching this thing, waiting for it to go. Okay, I have got this ready to go. Kitchen, here's winter, okay, brunch, okay. Okay, here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 22 of Aunt Lainie's Kitchen. You can find me on Spotify and iHeartRadio. At this time, I'm also starting to put some videos up on, YouTube. And so I'm really, just a couple because I've got more for Quaint and Cozy KC, but you got to start somewhere, doing this. If you're new to me, I used to do this as Quaint and Cozy KC. I still have that. That's something a little bit different. I decided to just kind of break this up because this is more food based, because Quaint and Cozy KC was all about, being around Kansas City, like going to these towns, visiting museums, and then the food just started kind of taking over it. I'm like, wait a minute, but I'm Quaint and I'm Cozy, but I'm also Aunt Lainie. So that's kind of how this came about. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you, just kind of give you a little update on my life, and then I'm going to talk to you about spring decluttering. So what's been going on with me is that I have made it part of my mission to, I want to be able to see more smaller towns in the KC Mo area. So like a couple of weeks ago, I went to Excelsior Springs, and went to this cute little diner called Ray's, and I'm gonna do a review on that. And then not this episode, but on my restaurant review episode, because I try to break those up. And then I also was in Atchison, and I had not been to Atchison since I was a kid. And so I went there, and there was just such a cool little vibe there. I went to a place called Trotters by the River, which was pretty cool. I kind of did a mini review of that when I did my Quaint and Cozy KC, my latest episode of that. So I will actually separate that as well. But it was just a great vibe. And I didn't realize that Atchison had the river there. It's because I hadn't been there in so long. And so it's one of those places, and they have these cute little food places as well, I noticed, kind of in the downtown area. Okay, so with all that, that's my update. My next place I'm going is I'm headed to Shawnee to check out the museum, like the 1929, I think it's called 1929, Shawneetown 1929. I'm going to be checking that out, and then I'm going to look for a local restaurant in the area. I haven't found one yet. I've kind of been asking some of my JoCo people for recommendations, but if not, I might just, explore Google and pick one out depending on what my mood is, since I am kind of on a tighter schedule on Friday. Okay, here we go. So I want to talk to you guys about spring and fall spring, because I'm in Kansas City, and we have fall spring here, you guys. It's lies. Right now it's in the 70s. A couple weeks ago it was super cold. I feel we've got at least one more snowstorm, and then probably a couple days of sleeting left. So, I'm actually moving my patio furniture in, because I'm going to kind of do something a little bit different. They're doing some construction on my townhouse, and so I have to kind of move everything in the next couple of weeks. So I'm moving all that in, but in my kind of view, I'm not going to be moving it back out for a little bit. I'm just kind of wait and see, because I'm actually going to update that. I'm going to take my patio furniture that I have now, because it's kind of like the loungy kind that everybody got in COVID, when you're having parties outside. I'm going to take that, and I am going to put that in my basement. I'm going to turn my basement kind of into this little lounge area kind of thing, so I can kind of host smaller dinner parties, probably 8 to 10 people, and not really do anything that's going to be heavy where I'm going to have to carry a casserole pan. It's going to be more like a happy hour situation, just like with the bites and just how I'm going to serve things. Since I have to go up and down the stairs, I don't want to, be carrying a huge casserole pan. That's not going to work for me. Okay. But now with all that updating, let's talking about the spring, for me, I'm decluttering, right? I mean, I actually did a really good kitchen declutter last year, and I had all these things because all these things went on sale during COVID, and so I bought them, and then I was using them a lot, and then all of a sudden, like in 2022, I was like, oh, restaurants are really opening, like people are not having house parties anymore. We're like outside again, and so I ran outside as well with everybody else. And now with everything going on now, I see more people kind of going inside a little bit more versus 2022. So I've got some trays though, and I'm like looking through all my trays again, just to kind of make sure that I'm actually going to use them. If not, because I have some people that have their eye on my trays. But one of the things I always do every season, if I forget, because when you have that last kind of warm weather day, and you wash everything down and all that other stuff, and now that we're in fall spring, I still want to have everything ready to go, because in Kansas City, once it starts getting hot, it gets hot right away, and then you're like, oh wow, like when it's sticking, right? And so that's probably not going to be till like about May, but I want to have everything ready. So I definitely wipe everything down, even if I washed it before. Even if I washed it before, and I usually wash everything, when I'm done with it, I kind of like to give it a nice little rinse. Again, like wash it again since it hasn't been used. And then also I want to look at my colors again. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to bring out all my table linens that I have. And I'm going to bring out like my placemats, all of that, and see what kind of condition they're in. Because, when you're in the middle of a warm season, you're like, this has seen better days. I'll get rid of it next year. And then here comes next year and you're like, do I still want to get rid of this? So I'm kind of doing that. I'm going to kind of do the declutter before I actually, need to use these things. And so I'm kind of like looking to see if they're frayed, looking to see if it's still my taste. It might not be my taste. And again, luckily I do have people, we kind of have this little swap going on amongst ourselves that, maybe I can swap it for something else in my friend group. And so that's one of the things I'm looking at. I'm also kind of seeing, like, I'm going to see how much I actually used it, because I have a tablecloth that I had to remind myself I had, because I ended up getting it, like, I think someplace with a gift card. It's like one of those home stores. I had a gift card. And so I went ahead and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get all this stuff on sale. And then I forgot I had it, and it was there for 2 years. And finally I'm like, wait a minute, this white tablecloth, wait, I actually do have, like, I need to bring this out. I need to like kind of open this up and figure out, what I'm going to do with this white tablecloth. But I've had other things like seasonal decorations that I never opened, and they're like 4 years old, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, I'm never going to use this. Like I was trying to think, when am I going to use this? And I was like, I could always swap out the thing I have now and use this thing. And I'm like, no, I think what happened is I was in, a certain store and something was on sale. I was like, oh, I have colors and I can make it work. And then I got home, was like, it's not really. And I just never took it back to the store, because I'm like, I'll just give it to somebody. Someone will want it during one of my swaps. And then, so that's the kind of thing that I'm discovering now. This is also a great time, even though the holidays are, the December winter holidays are way behind us. It's still, for me, a good time to kind of go through Christmas ornaments and all that stuff. Instead of what I usually do is like, I'm like, oh, I got to put up my tree in November, like around Thanksgiving, a little after. And then I'm like, oh, these are broken. Why didn't I get rid of these? It's because once that tree went down, I just shoved everything into the ornament bag and booked it downstairs. And then I was like, oh, okay. I just would forget about it. But it's easy to do that with your kitchen stuff as well. So again, be looking through the ornaments, be looking through all the things that you think like, oh man, I haven't used this forever. Oh my gosh. But, I'm talking about ornaments and seasonal decorations. And it also goes for other things in your kitchen. I'm not sure what you're looking forward to this spring. I'm sure maybe you've got some goals. One of my goals is to do more shelf cooking. And that's something I'm really getting better at, because sometimes what would happen is I'd look and I had great stuff on my shelf, but then I was like, I don't feel like eating this, or it's going to be too much prep. And so now I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm really going to be more mindful about like, is it a lot of prep, or am I trying to be a perfectionist here? Right. And so it's something that I had to think about. Now, speaking of perfectionists and all that stuff, kind of, like talking about that, I want to talk to you about dusting off those warmer weather recipes because we're in fall spring, and I will keep saying that because we are in Kansas City. Sometimes it can be really difficult to, because it's still sort of cold and rainy outside, but not as cold and rainy as it's been. And then you're thinking, well, I'm just going to, keep doing these stews until I can't stand the stews, or I'm going to keep doing this heavy comfort food. But then it's like when it's 50 degrees and it's raining outside, I'm like, okay, that's one level of comfort food versus it's negative 10 degrees outside. That's another level of comfort food. So in the spring, what I try to do is I'll have some stews on hand. I'll make like heavier comfort food casserole stuff, but I'll also be getting those salad things together. I do a veg prep every week, and just to make sure that, and I keep everything separate so nothing mixes, so the ingredients last longer. They don't get that weird turn. Sometimes if you mix like olives with cucumbers or tomatoes or whatever, it starts to taste briny, and I don't want that taste, right? So I keep everything separate. Now, sometimes I have been known to mix like maybe onions and tomatoes together because I know I'm going to put those on a thing. That's fine. But otherwise, I don't mix those because I'm going to have different moods for, I'll have different moods throughout the week. So sometimes I want to put like the tomatoes and onions on it in the salad, or I'll want to add it to a sandwich, or I'll want to make it kind of like a standalone side thing that's not, because I'm really rediscovering salads that don't have lettuce in them, just like mixed vegetables, doing that kind of situation. So for me, I'm kind of doing broths, and I've got some heavier stews and comfort food, but I'm also putting those salads in there. I'm also putting like the light broths. I'm doing a lot with miso soup as well, just something to kind of keep in mind as we're kind of getting closer and closer to spring. Okay, so here's my very brief review of With Love, Meghan, and that's on Netflix, and everybody has a think piece, and I have a theory that think pieces are fueling this economy right now. It's got to be what's fueling the economy, because everybody has an opinion about everything, and this show is very kind of like, it's polarizing people. For me, I think it's a lot of fun. I'm an old school Food Network cooking channel, even I would say PBS channel, like watching people entertain in their homes, watching them interact with people. And yes, it is kind of scripted, but that's okay. That's fine. I'd rather have it be scripted than have it be something where it's like, it's just a little too off the cuff, because, for me, like, I used to live in California, obviously not Montecito, but California, and it's got like the nice California backdrop, and it's got the whole vibe and the flowers. There used to be a flower market where I lived that would come, because I lived in the Culver City area years ago. And like there was a weekly flower market, and that was my treat for myself. I would buy like a small little bouquet of fresh flowers. And, that was kind of like the thing. And I would do it every week. Sometimes, I'd have to do it every other week, depending on, how much I went out the week before. But it was just one of the fun things that I really enjoyed doing, was that flower market, and seeing her with her flowers and going to the garden and doing that stuff. That was really like, I love that. I had really good memories. And, I know a lot of people are saying this is not attainable. And I want to disagree here, because it depends on what you're trying to attain from it, right? Like her recipes are not quote unquote groundbreaking, but they're very easy to do. And I think we went through a period of time in these cooking shows where things were so elaborate. I don't know, come back with me to the mid 2000s, when it got to be so elaborate that I started kind of tuning out of it. I'm like, that's really not realistic. Okay. And I'm saying that as like the fun, rich auntie person, where I'm like, that looks like a lot of work. That's a lot of, expense. That's just not going to be something that, I want to do. And so, the things she's doing with, like, she made like a rainbow and clouds with like all this fruit. You can do that. Maybe you can't do the whole rainbow. Maybe you just do like the little arch with the strawberries or blueberries or whatever you have on hand, right? That's how I look at it. I think people are looking at this as some kind of like weird step-by-step guidebook, and it really is supposed to be inspo, because inspo isn't supposed to be, in my view, something that you have to do. It's just giving you the possibilities, and that's what I really liked about this show. And she reminded me, because I don't have a garden, because where I live, I have to do raised beds, because I'm like, where it's just the soil is not tenable. But I've got like a kitchen herbal garden, which I'm watching her show. I'm like, oh yeah, I can. And so I started using my fresh mint because I almost forgot I had it. I've just been watering it and whatever. I'm like, oh hey, I've got fresh mint and I have fresh basil and I have, the rosemary it's looking a little scary, but and I have some English lavender, and that's, again, might be on her last, hurrah, but still I have these ingredients. I have, and again, they're very simple. Are they fresh tomatoes or lemons? No, but they are fresh herbs. And that, to me, that's kind of a win. And I feel like it is attainable. You think about it, if all you have is like the ability to do like a small kitchen, even if it's just a basil plant, something like that. Fresh basil tastes amazing. I was adding my fresh basil to like pizza. I was adding it to salads and all soups, all kinds of things. That's so simple. It's not exactly what she has, but it's in the spirit of, fresh vegetables that you have, that you're growing, in your house or maybe outside of your house, however that works. So I enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of in COVID when we were doing a lot more dinner parties and that kind of thing, and just being with people outside and all of that. So, that kind of is inspiring kind of my lounge that I'm doing. So I can kind of host, 8 to 10 people. I feel like, to me, that's a nice, good size kind of like dinner party, happy hour situation. Cause more than that, it can be a little hectic for the host. But 8 to 10, that's just the right amount for a few hours. That's just the right amount. And that's kind of the feeling I got from watching her show. Okay, that was my very light review of With Love, Meghan, the Netflix show. Now, this weekend, I'm going to be running the streets, okay? And I'm going to Snake Saturday. That's what we have in the Northland in the Kansas City area, the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. That's usually kind of how it is. And so in the past, what I've done is I've actually done brunches. Like people have said, hey, I live on the parade route. Everybody bring kind of a breakfast brunch thing and we'll kind of eat here and then we'll go out and watch the parade, or we can watch the parade from like, the window or whatever, because they were right on the parade route. And so one year what I didn't try to do corned beef or cabbage. Those are not in my wheelhouse really. But if that's you, oh my gosh, that's amazing. What I did is because I am the queen of different types of pans. I have it's a cake pop pan, but you can also make egg bites, little omelet bites. And so that's what I did. And then I did like a homemade raspberry compote where I took the raspberries and like some sugar and some lemon juice, and I cooked them down in a saucepan on my range. And then I added those to the pancakes that I was making. So I had like these first I tried to make crepes, you guys. And the first crepe was good. But then after that, it was going downhill. So I was like, you know what? Where's my waffle maker? So, I have one of those little mini waffle makers. So I ended up making something like 24 waffles in that waffle maker. And I think I did a couple of pancakes as well. So I had like the compote mixed with the waffles and the compote mixed with some of the pancakes. And so it went really well. And I got so many compliments. And then what I did, because, when you're doing a party like that, you can't have a big kind of container of things. You got to kind of make things space friendly. So what I did was, instead of serving them full on, like, oh, here's a disc of a pancake, here's a disc of waffle, I cut them into fourths with a pizza roller and kind of like had it like that. And it was very easy for the host to kind of replenish the tray where they had the food. And so, that worked out really well. And it didn't take me that long. I just needed to plan that just a little bit better. And the omelet bites were like a total success. I just kept it as simple as I could. And then I remember years ago when I lived in Newport, Rhode Island, they used to have a St. Patrick's Day parade before the one in Newport, Rhode Island. And so we had friends on the parade route. So we would kind of bring our own breakfast situation there as well. And so what I did there, and it was kind of like a breakfast brunch. So I always made these tater tots, and because they had a microwave, and they, they were really good about food safety. They're like, okay, we're going to put everything in the refrigerator when we go out, and we'll bring it back out, and we'll, heat things up. So I used to do a tater tot casserole. Now, before you go, oh my gosh, I didn't do it Minnesota style. And I can say that because I was born in Minnesota and I did live there for a while after college. I did it in the sense of I had the tater tots. I sauteed veggies. I had green onions, red onions, bacon, and mushrooms in there, and I sauteed those, and I actually put those all in the same pan because I knew it was kind of going in there, and I would just layer it. So I kind of had everything layered, and then I would throw on a big thing of like Swiss or mozzarella cheese on top, and I would season it, and I put like a little bit of lime juice in there. You're like, lime juice, but it gave it like a kick, and like a nice little like citrusy bite in there, because you know it was almost spring. I wanted to compel spring. And then, you know, people could kind of like lift it up, like kind of spoon it out. It wasn't something where you're like, what is this thing? It was not, I didn't put any kind of gravy or broth or anything like that in there. It was just, you know, straight. And then I also did put some olive oil in there, so it didn't get too dry. So I did kind of add that extra virgin olive oil. Sometimes I'd use like garlic olive oil on there as well, just kind of give it a nice flavor. And that's just kind of like my thing. If you're doing this, because, you know, you're going to go meet somebody, you know, go to a party on the parade route, just keep everything simple and, you know, hydrate and all that other good stuff. But, you know, that's just kind of like, I'm really excited for it. I don't think we're going to be going to someone's house. I think we're going to be like out on the streets. And so I'm going to figure out if I can come up with maybe like, you know, a couple like little snack bites or something for us as we kind of wait around and hang out and hoop and holler and run for the candy and all that other fun stuff that you do. On that day, although I do feel a little robbed because it's 70 degrees all this week. And then Saturday, the high is going to be 49. And I just feel like, dang it. But then I also realized if it were too warm outside, I feel like it could just really erupt into some trouble. And that was some of the best times I had, is that, you know, when it's on the parade route and it's a little colder outside because, you know, you guys are you're running around and being silly. And I've been out on St. Patrick's Days where it was like 60, 65 degrees and you're sweating because you're running around and like, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating. I gotta, you know, so you gotta kind of dress in layers. And with that, my next episode, I will be doing the restaurant reviews. I also have not forgotten, if you listen to Dr. V's episode, she is one of the instructors at the Green Hills Culinary Center. That's part of Mid-Continent Library. And so we've got a part 1, and then I'm going to come back out with part 2. I'm kind of working on editing that one as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. You guys take care. Thanks so much for all the support. I'm still figuring out what my my short form content's going to be, because I get on TikTok and I'm like, these people are doing the most and I'm here for it. But it's like, but do I want to do the most? And that's kind of where I'm at. So, when I start doing short form, you're going to see me doing veg prep. You're going to see me doing like different kind of things. It's going to be very doable, attainable, and all of that. And I'll give like some really simple tips. And I'm always going to be cooking for the most part on a 1 burner or a 2 burner, because, when I was talking about doing this platform with my friends, because at first I was going to be like, I just want to elevate everything, all this other stuff. And then I thought, I feel like there's a missing gap. And I've really been inspired by some of the TikTok creators on here that are cooking, for real people kind of thing, like your average person. And so I was like, I kind of want to do that as well. There's a lot of people on here elevating the game, and I love that for them. But I kind of want to work on elevating things that you get from your store, but not to the point where it's unattainable. Like, I like to season food, but I also realize if you've got all these seasonings, you can't overseason. I know you're like, what, girl, lies, but you can't overseason. And sometimes when something's already prepared, it's already got a certain taste to it. So you kind of have to work with that. Otherwise it can kind of taste weird. Like, in my opinion, if you season it a certain way, it can kind of taste weird. Like, sometimes I've tried to use like Cajun seasoning on random things just to kind of try it out, and it doesn't work on everything. So, that's why when I'm doing a soup that's already in a can, I do something simple like a little bit of basil. I'll do something like a little bit of chives, depending on, what other flavors are in there. It's really something simple. And, something like that, because sometimes those specialized seasonings they just don't gel well with, the canned goods or the prepared foods. Okay, I'm leaving for real. You guys can find me AuntLainie'sKitchen.com. I'm on Facebook, Aunt Lainie's Kitchen. You can also find me on Instagram, and of course, you're on TikTok with me right now. You guys are so great, and thank you so much for your support. Take care.